Krogadal. Happy Thursday. It is a wonderful day. I have Patricia Gagic with us today, and she is moving and shaking things up. She's an amazing, amazing woman, and I cannot wait to bring her on here. But first, let me put on my intro. Oh, and also, by the way, if you are on here, please give StreamYard permission so that when you post, we don't just see Facebook user, we can actually see your name. So anyways, I will post that up, but here comes the video. Hi, it's Zena Krogadal, your American Dream Makers host. I have a wonderful woman joining us today. Patricia Gagic is a highly acclaimed figure, recognized both nationally and internationally for her exceptional talents and contributions. Hailing from Canada, she is carved with remarkable path as an outstanding communicator, award-winning contemporary artist, author, percussionist, and successful entrepreneur. But her impact extends far beyond these realms. So I am going to bring her on here. You guys, she is fantastic. Hi, Patricia.
Hi, Zena.
How are you?
I'm good. It's sun shining today, and we are going to get some frost on the ground later tonight, but that's okay. So it's Canada.
It's Canada. What do you expect, eh?
Right.
So you guys, if you are on here, please give StreamYard permission. And that way we can see your comments. And if you are here also, please go ahead and like and share this. Patricia has an amazing message to get out there and share with the world. So, all right, Patricia. Well, without further ado, tell us about yourself.
Wow, this is such a great opportunity to talk about things that I'm that person who doesn't really like to talk about me. I'm always, let's help somebody else. But I want to just, your first words, of course, are inspire, impact, and transform. And that hit me just as I was, watching this, because in many, many ways, my life started off with, my love of art, my love for wanting to draw, wanting to be an artist. And then, the inspiration also came from, my dad, who, he was an accountant, and it was like, you need to go and have a real job because art's never going to pay your bills. and I thought, okay, but I'm going to transform and make a little bit of an impact. And so at the, ripe old age of 25, I actually made my way up the ivory tower, and I became a bank manager. And at the age of 25, so it was something that wasn't done, and that's back in the 70s. So I felt the inclination to continue doing my art, and so I did both. So I had a career as a banker, and then I also had a career working as an artist. And I was laughing because not too long ago, somebody asked me about your first sale. And my first sale was actually in Regina, Saskatchewan. And it was, work went into a gallery, and they paid me $5. It was $5 and I hope whoever owns one of them realizes that they made a good deal. So that was a trigger for me to have my world extend beyond just art. And so being in business. Also became an entrepreneur, which was interesting, a property manager after my banking days. I started a management company and did some project management, building and leasing medical buildings. And for a little while, I also tackled retirement home ownership. So built and converted a building into a retirement facility. And but everything has always progressed with art, where I've wanted to become, having that as an expression of who I am.
Yeah. That's amazing that you were at the age of 25 already taken up a huge leadership role. And like you said, and even not just that, but that being a woman and a young woman taking on that role, that's huge.
I felt the challenge for me was I didn't have a university education. That didn't happen. My early story, you know, it's interesting. I was basically forced to get a job in many ways, and when my first time, literally, to begin to have like a legit job was working as a teller at the bank. And I remember walking in and looking at the bank manager who was wearing his, white shirt and his little red tie and dark suit. And I thought, wow, I should be sitting in that office. I can do what he's doing. So I literally tackled learning every position there was in the branch. So never mind that I was just doing the teller work. Back in the day, we actually had cards and we had to hand write the actual cards. And then that's how they got posted. And so I learned the DDA desk. I learned all the international currency transactions. Then I got into learning about the administration side of the bank. Decided after that, this was my move. And I was recognized by, thank goodness, human resources saw that I wanted, to excel. And I was proficient at it. So I moved up that ladder, the corporate ladder, and got into lending and into, the personal loan department, and then eventually into the commercial, and they sent me away and I took some courses, Institute of Canadian Banker courses. So I started to, align myself with what that potential would be. And I think, once you've been in that headspace, my goal was to say, and I did say it out loud, I want to be one of the first female bank managers and youngest. I mean, there were other women, of course, who were in the banking industry, but at that time, I think it was the Manitoba, Saskatchewan district. I was actually, considered to be one of the youngest females that they had put behind, the office doors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome experience. And I find it very interesting that you're working with a lot of numbers and doing a lot of those things, but yet your passion is art.
Yeah. I really super left side, right side. I'm Libra with a Virgo rising, if anybody's into that kind of astrology. So focus, clarity on so many levels. But I felt, writing poetry was always appealing for me. I had so many different experiences. I really, actually, it culminated in going back a little bit because we have a mutual friend who happens to be Craig Duswalt. And Craig was a huge inspiration for me, even as old as I am. Going back about 13, 14 years ago, I was invited to attend one of his, first boot camps, and I was one of the first people in his mastermind. But the amount and the quality of people that he was bringing showed me that there was much, much more that I had to learn and much more that I really needed to focus on. And one of those became writing a book. And I think, his program, which is, how to write a book in 30 days, I took that challenge. And so the first book that I actually wrote was Karmic Alibi, Gaining Expedient Wisdom by Leaving Your Excuses Behind. And in that book, I write about some of the challenges that I've had, also some of the good things that, I've experienced. But more so, I also felt that there are lessons to be learned, and huge parts of them we keep hidden, or we're afraid. Fear is not my currency, but definitely it plays a hand in some decision making. But I think associating yourself, aligning yourself with people who are motivated and feel that they can offer you something better, which Craig and the army of Craig around him. And currently he's working with Ken Walls, James Barber. Those are the people who have taken the bull by the horns and said, I want to do this, and I want to get through my life having amazing experiences, but also, paying it forward. And that's a huge part of my life, paying it forward and being involved in community work. But I like believing that everybody has a story. but there has to be something, the wisdom pieces that come out that change the world, that actually do make a huge difference. And I think that's where a lot of us learn by, who are the 5 closest people around you, who are your 5 closest intimates, because you're really a reflection of always, who you are around and what you're going to do with that. So being around people like yourself and Craig and James and all those who are in your circle, that's the push. And I think that's one of the reasons why I have encouraged other people to seek mentorship, to seek aligning yourself with people that are, really wanting to make a difference. Also, find new ways for their own expression.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's just really beautiful that you would put that out there, because there's so many of us at times we feel like we're stuck. We only know what we know,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know how to reach out, and we don't know, and we form circles of people around us from our young age, right? And sometimes we don't know how to break from that and go beyond it. So I'm glad that you shared that mentorship and going even beyond outside of your circle for mentorship is important.
Yeah, I think that saying is, I love to be uncomfortable. I don't. We always seek our comfort zone, and the comfort, it's like comfort food, people that you're going to have a great conversation with, that you want to hang around with. And then you get challenged, by meeting certain people who are not in your bandwidth. But I think that's the time when you can actually smash through and crack through your dreams, because you learn something from them. You feel their energy or their expertise, or you simply feel that inspiration that says, there's a part of something there that I really like. I actually, a good example of this was, I was always into, what inspiration there is. And I decided I wanted to know more about feng shui. So it looked so complicated, and I kept thinking, I'll never get this. But I did go through, and I took the course, and I became a feng shui master. I did the verbal exam, which was very difficult. Not just memory, but it's the way that, it actually aligns itself. And after that, I thought, wow, I did that. What else can I do that I haven't done before? And then, 2 years ago, I reconnected with one of my best friends, and he happens to be a drummer, a phenomenal drummer. And I got inspired to say, well, can you teach me? And never thinking for a split second that I could get behind a drum kit and do it. But it happened. And there I am sitting there going, I am truly now going to be the rock star for myself. And people look at me and think, oh my God, how could you do that? Look at how old you are, and you're sitting there going crazy. But I think you spend your whole life thinking about certain things that you would like to do, but you almost don't give yourself permission. I'll make an excuse, I'm too old, or, this is too expensive, or I shouldn't do this, or it's going to be challenging or too boring. But not until you actually start doing something do you realize whether or not it's going to work. And the coolest part is that once you start doing that, your synapses in your brain, they get stronger. And I think that for people who are looking for ways to stay healthy, to wake up every day with a good positive attitude, and attitude plays a huge part. And you and I have talked about this. It's what will keep you flowing and growing. And if I'm not drumming, and I'm not painting, and I'm not writing, I feel that emptiness. I feel the void. And I think that's why, when I hear people who say, oh my God, I'm so bored, I have nothing to do. It's like, could I please buy your time and add those years to my life? Because I want to add like another 30 or 40 years to my life, so that I can continue to experience some of the things that, I love. And painting will never stop. I think, that's an addiction that goes way beyond an addiction. Like once you've started something like that, you don't ever, I want to die with a paintbrush and a drumstick in my hand. That's how I want to go.
Great.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you decided to pick up the drums?
You really want me to do this, don't you? So I don't care. I say my age all the time. So yeah, I'm going to be 70 in October. So
So
I mean,
you
being
just started picking it up
2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
I know. I know. Now I will never be playing with a rock band, even though, I can sit there with the music going on. My super love right now though, and I love music so much. I mean, that's a huge part of, my world. But I've been also obsessed with Thredge, and that's Ryan Duswalt's. He's the drummer. That's Craig's son, and I've been painting to a lot of their music. And even though it's heavy metal and it has, aspects of it that are brilliant, and so I can incorporate that. So I'm doing some Thredge paintings. I'm thredging, and that's exciting. I did a series not too long ago as well, of Pat from Pat Metheny. So Pat Metheny is a guitarist and probably one of the world's greatest guitar players, funk jazz slash a real unique sound. And he produced an album called Side Eye NYC, and there was a song on there called Lodger. I became so obsessed with that song that I started painting an entire series of paintings to his music and to Lodger, and then had the privilege of actually hearing him perform in Toronto. And that was just pretty exciting. So music plays a huge part.
So,
Yeah.
so I'm curious.
Okay.
I'm not. My mind is not, does not go towards artistic. I love art, but I myself am not geared to that. So I'm curious. What is it that when you hear a piece of music or you see something, what is it that triggers you inside to want to paint and express it that way? I'm just curious what the mechanism is or what goes on.
That's a hard question to answer. I in many ways, okay, so I've been a meditator. I've been that's my path, my practice for years and years and years. And there's a calmness that exists inside of our mind. And I mean, for a lot of people, it's very difficult to slow the thinking process down, just stopping and absorbing and having emptiness. I think because I was able to find the part of my brain that allowed me to sit in that stillness, I opened it up and allowed a third wave, or just a different concept of seeing things. So you would look at things with a very different perspective and value. There's also, I think, something inside of us, the DNA, that must go back generations and generations, that if you allow yourself or give yourself permission to do something, like what I do with my Karmic Art Academy, Karmic Art Experience, and that's, your brain is a slate of clarity. It's empty, tabula rasa. There's nothing there, but yet you bring thoughts in. What are you experiencing is actually a recurrence of what already exists in you. And yet it's not a struggle. It's a practice of being able to feel fully without complete attention to anything else that's going on around you, where you completely go into a state of absorption of experience. So you are very in the moment. And the music is a catalyst because it's all vibration, and we are vibration. We are cellular vibration. And when you give yourself that experience and you continue to do it, because the only way you can master anything is to do it repetitively. When you continue to practice and practice and practice, you get good at something. And I think that my interpretation of feeling and emotion becomes revealed through the art. So, I have painted a painting that I can remember the exact moment, where I had an exhibition It was actually at the Coda Gallery on Broome Street in New York. Now that gallery is not there anymore, but a gentleman walked in, looked up at a painting, and it brought tears to him. It was just emotion. And he came running to the owner of the gallery and said, "I want to meet the artist." And she said, "Well, she's just over there." So we talked. He grabbed my hand and he said to me, "I don't know who you are, but I don't know how you can see what's inside of me." And I looked at him and I thought, okay. And it was a stretch of something. Now, of course, painting and when you're looking at imagery, it's also a factor of design, but there's also the colors, and the colors are always about emotion. And the combination of colors from a palette, which are so specific, can in fact, be available to you if you know how to use them, but also expressing yourself with them. So I do know that there are going to be triggers for people. Look, I'm triggered when I look at, artwork. I either immediately it can, be repulsive. I might not like it, or I'm going to be so attracted to it. And I think, what is it that I'm seeing? And I always go into it. Like, I studied the art of Zhao Qi. He's he's a Chinese artist he's passed now. Very, very, very famous man who grew through his experiences using not just the techniques of Chinese painting, which is very structured and very, very important, but he mastered that. But then the expression of himself became so important to him that he moved into abstraction, which, going back to the 40s and 50s, that was just being dabbled with. And he, being Chinese, was also very unique. But his ability to combine the things that he felt with the colors of the paint and also with the structure hit me like unbelievable. Like, that became like the same experience that gentleman had looking at my work I have when I look at a Zhao Qi piece, because to me, I'm that. I feel it. I know the motion. I feel the emotion. I can look at the structure, and somehow it resonates with my cellular structure, where I just feel that I could jump in it and I am it. So when I'm painting, I also have that feeling of I'm expressing something that is etheric. Not necessarily will people ever be able to identify it. Now, some of my work looks very landscape because of the structure, the tri-structure, land, sea, air, water, but not so, because there will always be an interpretation from yourself where, oh, I see an animal in there, or I see a rock in there, or I see something, because we have the tendency to do what they like when you're looking at the sky and you start scrying, or you squint your eyes and you say, oh, I see a lamb, and I see a ship floating across, or I see a giraffe in the sky. So we're always seeking to find something in something. And I think art reveals the stories.
So that is interesting. So that would explain a little bit of why each person that can, because I see these things come across Facebook. What's the first thing you see?
Right.
Or what color sticks out to you? And so I'm hearing what you're saying is that whatever that person, so there's no right or wrong answer, obviously, because it's whatever that person is seeing or feeling or whatever. But it reveals something inside of them, what they are drawn to.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's complicated. I mean, there's a French artist, his name is Bellafleur, and also abstract. And I became really obsessed with, his work too. I love the work of Jackson Pollock. There's so many artists. And what is it about that work? Go again to Gustav Klimt, The Lovers. There's this beautiful way that the image reveals itself that is not like a photograph. You feel the intention of the artist was to take us to a place that's quite different and quite unique. So, a while back, I completed, this was another part of, the journey. I went to the University of Toronto and decided that I wanted to become a certified meditation specialist. They were offering a program on mindfulness and transformative mindfulness and applied mindfulness. A lot of psychologists and social workers and therapists were taking the course. And I thought, well, I'm going to do this too. So I took 2 of those courses, 2 back to back. So I did the 2 3-year programs in the same 3 years. And I think I learned so much about myself that I never paid attention to. I didn't think about how the past and things that had happened to me were actually impacting me in my decision making about what to do, and also impacting my work. What am I painting? So after completing, all of that, I realized that there was a lesson for me. I needed to actually also help other people. In addition to doing the things I do, art is an art therapy, but I really don't like the idea of art being therapy. I feel the other side of it is, so many people say, and lots of people say to me, oh my gosh, you're so talented. I don't know how to even make a stick man. And in my brain, that tells me that they've already thought about it. The simple fact that you can say you've thought about it means that there's something creative inside of you. And I want people to expand that. I want them to learn how to be generous to themselves. So I started this thing called the Karmic Art Experience, because the karma is obviously that which you need to produce. And then the art experience is really part of, again, me sitting down. You have an empty canvas, you have some paint, which I've given you. And then we go through not the instruction of, we're going to paint a background and we're going to put a fish in there or a flower. I insist that you listen to certain pieces of music that I've chosen. And then from there, I ask people seriously deep questions, sometimes shocking, but immediately it triggers an emotion in them. And that's where we then have the fuel, where we can then start, and then they produce a painting. And after, it's about 3 to 4 hours. And after it's completed, they're in shock, because you're so attached to the feelings that I'm bringing to you over this period of time, that you want to reveal them. Everybody wants to tell their story. Art is another way of storytelling, and it's just a little bit more hidden. There's, unless you're, painting some seriously violent acts or something, and then you know what that is, Guernica, whatever. But we have an ability to shelter our pain. And I think that when you can find new ways of expression, you release your attachment to your suffering. And I think the cessation of suffering can happen if you give yourself an opportunity. Now, I have not yet had anybody who's done the program with me ever tell me they hated it. If anything, I've had people say it was so dark, it was so challenging, and yet it gave them something that they had not expected that was within them. And that all by itself is just like taking a can opener off on a can of tuna and just taking off the lid, and all of a sudden you've got something there, and it's food. And it's food for the brain. It's food for you to, believe in yourself a little bit differently. So I love feeling that people can walk away with something. One thing that's really super important, and that's humility. And I think when you have an expectation, first of all, of yourself, and it's built around maybe a pure egoic sense where, you just feel, and that the only way that happens is if you separate yourself from others, where I'm better than you are. That fuels a lot of people to want to do better, but also the competitive nature in there. I feel sometimes that if you can have a partner, which is a canvas, and your tools are the paint, and you bring your humility to it, where you were revealing only to yourself and the intimacy with that canvas, your full expression of yourself, that's raw. And that's going to help you. I do know people who have pretty measured egos, and like to light up the room, but the light in the room, even if we go to Tim's story, or anyone, the light in the room is you. When you walk in the room, Gloria, when you walk in that room, you are the person. So why not walk into the room with you and your canvas, who can't talk back to you? You know, it's you can wash it out, you can put it on there, and you can take it out as well. But it's the essence of yourself, and that, to me, all by itself is a true perfection of experience. It's like playing your instrument. You know, if I'm drumming and I don't do well, I don't really care, because A, I'm drumming, and B, I'm the one listening to it, so I'm in an intimate relationship with my instrument. But you know, people are nervous about doing things like this, and so my claim to fame here is, you know, if you can think it, you can do it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Just amazing. And I love how you've articulated all of that so well. You know, explaining, you know, what goes on and how to really dig it out of people, you know, to have that healing. And it sounds like that's what your goal is to allow people to lay it all out in a non-threatening way, because it's just between them and the canvas, no judgment.
Mm-mm.
And then they can deal with it, whatever is on that canvas.
So while they're in the process, they forget where they are. You know, I mean, it because you're intimate with just what's in front of you, and the world, a lot of people are really smart and have this sense of accomplishment for themselves, and it's the challenge of, can you be comfortable being uncomfortable? And when you find out that it wasn't so uncomfortable, that you actually could do something that made a difference to you, it triggers that joy. It triggers that sense of happiness. And I think we all deep down, you know, are searching through, you know, family, relationships, friends, food, alcohol, drugs, whatever it is. We're all seeking to find that little moment where you can flirt with, oh, that felt good. There's my happy dance. There's the place where I feel that, you know, I want to go back there. So for many, many reasons, I think that trying something new, or sitting down and doing, you know, what is it? Spontaneous writing. There's a course that I had taken, and it was, the whole thing was based on spontaneous writing, where they gave you like 3 or 4 words, and then you had to come up with, you know, you sat for 15 or 20 minutes and you had to just create a story. And then everyone gets up and tells the story, and you all were given the same 4 words, and yet all the entire room went into a completely different direction. Nobody's stories were the same. And that's because our brains are wired with the memory and the information that's in them. Then you add the creative to it. Well, I'm going to embellish it. I'm going to change the storyline a little bit, and I'm going to fuel it with this or that. And I think that's the same thing when you're doing music. You can create, you know, you add a beat, you change the beat. Painting, you change the color, you change the tool that you're using. And so as an entrepreneur, and you know this as well, Zena, because you know you're in real estate, when you look at a house, all the houses are different. Nobody has the same front door, nobody has the same kitchen. Everyone creates and adds an element, you know, to make it theirs. And I think that that's what people should consider about themselves first. Never mind the exterior of the world, but how are you creating inside of you? How are you decorating your mind? What pieces are you putting in place? What visualizations are you bringing to yourself that give you the fuel to actually be able to wake up and say, this is going to be a damn good day today, because A, I'm alive, B, I'm going to make sure I make that happen. And of course, we all have circumstances around us that not everybody thinks like we do, or behaves the way that we wish that they would. But for the most part, your actions are the ones that you're accountable to and for. So adding things in your life makes a difference. Yeah.
I love how you can just explain it in such a manner that is understandable, because many of the artists that I've have talked to and asked, and they're deep, it's almost like they express it in a way that it's so far above my, I feel like I just can't grasp exactly what they're saying. It's abstract or something. There's something, because I'm not there with them. I don't exactly understand. I guess it's kind of like, the example would be, it's like when you go to a physician and a specialist and they start talking in medical terms,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Instead of layman's terms. And so you're like, what did you just say? And so that's how I am with many of the artists that I have met. But I love that you bring it down to a very understandable level, and you break it down to really understand the depths of it all. So I thank you so much for that, because that is very eye-opening and enlightening in that manner, because I've never had those things explained that way. So when you talk about that, and so you can listen to Thredge when you're thredging,
Mhm.
you're picking up pieces of the song, whether you're listening to the drum line or you're listening to the guitar or whatever it is. And so you're able to really just get into that moment and feel it. Is that what's happening when you're painting their pieces?
Yeah. So again, one really important part of the music is when everything is connecting to everything, right? So our words, one word is connected to the next word, which is connected to another thought. In the music, for me, with just specifically listening to Thredge, there is a mission of interpreting what they're feeling when they're doing this, putting it together as a group, trying to harmonize. So when I'm listening to someone, a cappella, or just, a solo guitarist, or without any other abstraction around me, then the focus is on one note to the next note. But I think what happens in many ways is that we also pay attention to what's in between the notes. And that's where I think the magic of me listening to, you know, um, any music, like from Led Zeppelin to whomever, but listening, to what is happening in between. Where do things move from? And then when you capture that, you're actually inside of your own adamantine particle of your heart. You're inside you, because you recognize what's going on in between. So you can give yourself a pause at certain times in life anyways, like, we're going to finish our interview, you're going to go off and do whatever, we might think about our conversation, there'll be something else going on, but there's always going to be a pause. When your intention is to listen to the music, you want to go from the beginning to the end. So you're allowing yourself to have usually 3 minutes. If we just go on an average song is 3 minutes. What you do though during those 3 minutes is you're focusing on, do you like the high notes? Do you like the low notes? Do you like what's going on in between? Do you like the person's voice? What are the words that are being used? What is the impact of that? Because sometimes there are things that are going on in a piece of music that bring you to tears. One huge part of my life was meeting my mentor in France, Monsieur Dragan Dragic. One of the first things that ever happened between us was him playing music and wanting to see what is my ability to respond emotionally. I sat in his home in Savoyon in Mont Ventoux. It's going back to 1989. I sat in there, and he literally told me he wanted me to listen to this piece of music. I couldn't even imagine for a split second what was going to happen to me next, because it was powerful, it was intense, and the piece of music was La Double Vie de Véronique. So it's the music that was written by Zbigniew Priestner, and it's complicated, but it's also so eerie and so dark. And the story itself is also, I didn't know what to expect. but it brought me to tears. And there were moments of literally, I think I was even embarrassed that I was, starting to gush about this. And it was right after that, like a few days later, because I was there for about 2 weeks with him in his atelier. And he said to me, he said, I knew that you would truly be true to yourself, first of all, when I knew that you would cry listening to music.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I'm almost in tears now thinking about it, because you cannot, I mean, artist to artist, I mean, he's a master artist. I'm beyond grateful in my life that I had the experience, and I still have this unbelievable relationship with him. But to have been taught from scratch, nothing. He basically said to me when I walked in the first time, you know nothing. You know nothing. Don't even come here and try and explain anything to me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I setting myself up for? But he took me, and that relationship, has evolved, obviously. And when I think about what it was that was the trigger for him, because I am his only long-term student that he's ever had, and that's a given. But it was the basis of what would I do when he played La Double Vie de Véronique in front of me, and I that to him was everything. It was, this girl actually has feelings and she can interpret them. I will teach her how to interpret those feelings.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing insight for me to hear, with artists, and understanding that the best artist feels deeply is what I'm sensing, hearing that they portray the emotions through their songs or paintings or drawings or whatever their art piece is. And so the observation just from the outside here, and maybe you can give me a little insight on this. So those that feel deeply, and I'm thinking of like some of the biggest musicians and maybe some of the artists in history, they seem to have suffered deeply as well, emotionally. Is it because they're taking on so much emotion of the world, or what is going on there? Because from what you're saying, the art, you're teaching people to release all that in art so that they don't hang on to these burdens and things that keep you weighed down. Mm-hmm. But yet some of these remarkable artists really struggled emotionally. Mm-hmm. So were they not releasing as they were playing? Because they had beautiful, beautiful products that they gave out to the world.
I'm pretty sure that, you will, I think people are always going to suffer. That's the nature of humanity. We are always going to suffer. It is our attachment to an aspect of the suffering that sometimes cannot be released, where, for example, someone goes through a very nasty experience, a very nasty experience when they're 13 or 14 years old. And when someone experiences something, it may be over that instant of the pain and suffering, the moment that it's finished. But the attachment to the memory of the feeling stays with people. And then from there, that becomes I don't want to say an excuse, but that becomes the leverage for them, because they can't get past it. And so they continually fuel their attachment to that feeling. And the synapse on that gets so thick that it's very difficult for them to release it. But that's also not a bad thing if you're going to look at artists, because, and again, it's like I'm a recovering mind. I'm consistently recovering from some things that have happened to me in my life, but I'm giving my life a new way of expressing my feelings without me having to suffer while I do it. It never really goes away. The amygdala still holds on to all that information in there, but it's how active are you, how courageous are you, and how willing are you to release the attachment to it, to evolve it so that you actually can evolve even though you're expressing yourself in a certain way through your music, but you're always creating a new place for it, or a new way of it coming out. Like you're writing 10 songs, you're writing 10 poems. I mean, a good example, there's a book called A Prayer for Owen Meany, and it's written by John Irving. I read that book. I couldn't even put it down. I just kept page after page after page. And I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to go to sleep. I just wanted to get this book and get right through it. I finished the book and I realized I cried, sobbed. I had to put the book down and just like shake and go, oh my God, did I just really read that? And then pick the book back up and then read it again, go over and over and over, because somebody's story, somebody's words were so profound and so deep that triggered or I was able to find something inside of me that understood it in relationship to my own life, my own experiences. And yet I didn't write the book, and I'm only a reader, and I'm one of millions of people who have read the book. I don't know what everybody's experience is going to be or was, but I understood that the author, John Irving, released something that he had inside of him using words. And those words exist in that book in many, many copies, in many people's libraries and on their shelves, to be read over and over and over, and futuristically. And that story doesn't go away. Well, in a painting or a drawing, for me, all of those moments, all those stories did the very same thing. They culminated into this one particular piece. I've released my attachment to it. I will have different experiences, maybe more suffering, or maybe more problems, or maybe none, or maybe it's a good day, who knows? But when I go to that moment where I'm going to start a new canvas, I've already painted a canvas with those other emotions before. Do I want to bring my next painting to the same place? Or do I want to give myself a new opinion in my mind about where I want to go with my work? Now, the artists who are consistently painting with black and white, and I love black and white paintings. I always think to myself, there's only two things they're using. They're using black and they're using white. But why is it that every single one of them looks completely different, makes me feel completely different? Like Agnes Martin, literally at the age of 90 years old, went into the desert in New Mexico, lived in her little adobe, and painted lines with dots every single day. And not one of them is the same. And her story every day became different, or had a different feeling. I mean, she might have eaten a bagel instead of a muffin, and that could have converted itself into whatever. So I think we're complicated people. I think that the future for all of us is the recognition that, consciousness is evolving. People are evolving. Look at us right now with AI. There's a book written, The Human Devolution, I think is Michael Cremo. And everything about the mind, we are creating that which is going to actually take us over in certain aspects, more profound and more perfect. But it will never be able to replace that aspect of us, the human emotion. And what you want to deliver to people is the best of yourself, because you are the art of this creation. I mean, and we can also look at, and I love listening. And if anyone hasn't done it, they should listen to Glenn Morshower. There are, people are out in the world right now who have massive amounts of wisdom and experience. And they are the people who we need to pay attention to, because you unfold yourself in a way that makes you a better person. And when you're a better person, you become a better person to help other people. And I think it's hard to hold a candle sometimes up against, yourself and say, okay, did I do okay today or not okay? The only person who's going to be able to judge that is you. But everything else around us is impacted because of how we show up. So yeah, not everything is good every single day of everybody's life, but how you show up, your attitude, what you want to do with it, that can make a difference. And if you need a tool to do something in your life that will give you a better, a better flow, then pick up an instrument, pick up a guitar, pick up a set of drumsticks or paintbrushes, or sit in a library, play chess. I mean, it's don't go stagnant and stop with the pity party. That's always what I say. Stop with the pity party.
Well said. Well said. So I also want to, you are an amazing artist and you have your art displayed at the Vatican, correct?
Yeah. So I'll share a little bit about that story. So I love doing ink drawings, spontaneous drawing ink. Like I never sit down and just want to do somebody's, cat or dog, but I do appreciate the people who do that for sure. I did these 3 drawings and I called them the Black Madonnas and the Mother of Light, Synchronicity. And anyways, I showed them to this friend of mine, and she said, "Oh my gosh, these are so beautiful. They need to go to the Pope, to Pope John Paul." And through her ways, she connected to somebody who connected to somebody. And the next thing I know, the person who was representing Pope John Paul was coming to Canada, and we actually did a presentation of the 3 pieces, and they were taken back to the Vatican Museum, and they are in the archives of the museum at the Vatican. So that presentation was made. It was super beautiful. I loved it. I did actually have an opportunity to go to Rome. I did go to the Vatican, and I did walk through the museum, and I saw a lot of artwork. It's a rotating collection. I mean, there are millions of documents and pieces of art that they have in their collection. I did not see mine, but I know, they were handed to them. So that was a victory for me. I feel so good about that.
Say what an honor, for sure. I mean, how many people can say that they have art at the Vatican?
Yeah.
And you have a lot of accomplishments, and I know I wrote that all out with your bio in the introduction on our Facebook introduction. So you are extremely accomplished. You've been very awarded with so many honors, and with all that, you have remained very humble in it, which is a wonderful thing, because you're confident, but yet you're humble at the same time about your artwork. And out of all of those things that has happened to you and for you, is there something that really stands out to you the most?
Oh, well, I think, there's a few, so not just one. I mean, being nominated, first of all, it's a privilege when someone thinks that you're worthy of nominating you for something. And I was nominated by an organization as the top 100 most powerful women in Canada. And that happened one year. I didn't receive the award. They did it the next year, and I received the nomination and acceptance of being one of the top 100 most powerful women in Canada. And then the following year, a different organization nominated me, and I also became the top 100 most powerful women in Canada. And then the 4th time around, they inducted me into the Hall of Fame. So I'm WXN, Women's Executive Network, top 100 in Canada. And then I also received a wonderful acknowledgement. I was knighted. I was knighted to be a Dame of the Order of St. George and Priory. And that was very, very emotional and beautiful. And then with respect to art, I also had the privilege of, I'm represented by a woman in France, Fassis. Her name is Bénédicte Lacat. And she took my work to the SNBA, the Salon National Beaux-Arts in Paris, and it's held at the Carrousel du Louvre, at the Louvre. And it was one of my photography pieces. It was called The Path. And believe it or not, in this entire planet I wouldn't even in a million years think this could happen, but I won the gold medal with my work. So I was the first Canadian female to have won the gold medal at the SNBA. And the organization, I think, has been doing this for 140 40 years, something like that. The photography category has probably only been in existence for about 25 or 30 years. But so to me, that having my work hanging, you know, in the Louvre, and the location of the area where my work was, if I went directly up above, um, there was some pretty fantastic work up there. So, you take a breath and you think about all the masters in the world, and there you are alive, and you have something that's hanging in there, but you also received an award over and above everybody. And that the crazy thing is that, in this world, if you think about all the different countries, like, Japan, whatnot, there are 40,000 entries, 40,000 images, and those judges ruled it down and down and down, and then they picked mine. So, so yeah, that was a highlight for sure, sir. Absolute highlight.
Well, congratulations to you and all of that. It's very well deserved, and you are amazing. And with all of that, you still want to give back. And so tell us a little bit about, what you've been doing. I know you've been doing a lot in Cambodia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So in 2000, well, of course, I've been involved with Free the Children, and prior to them becoming, We Charity, et cetera, which has all changed. But I have been involved multiple organizations. Also, in 2006, a friend of mine went to Thailand and then went to Cambodia and called me, and there was a cement slab that was poured in this little tiny South Pagoda in Angkor Wat in Siem Reap. And she spoke to the monk, and they said that, they were, because of what happened during the time of the Khmer Rouge and Pol Pot, they wanted to build a library because the Buddhist teachings and all the books and the Cambodian folklore, everything was destroyed. It was a complete genocide in Cambodia. And so a lot of the monks had buried whatever reeds, like the long written, they would write on these reeds, the teachings, and before they burned all the books, because the Pol Pot regime burned all of the books. And now Master Kawan felt that it was time that if they could take these out from under the stupas where they were buried underground, they would have to rewrite them. And UNESCO was starting to make a lot of changes in Siem Reap and Angkor Wat, and felt that, really and truly the South Pagoda was an eyesore. And it really was. So I had the fortunate of getting the phone call from my friend Kathy, and she said, "I need $5,000." And I said, "What somebody stole your purse, your money?" She said, No, you're building a library." And that's how it started. And then the following year, 2007, I went to Cambodia. I met Master Kawan. I saw the library. I was one participant in completing the library. And but I saw what was going on around them. And they had a little school orphanage for the poor children. And so it became a love affair, and I fell in love with Cambodia. I fell in love with these children, and I continued to do what I could do. We built a school for the monks, and then we have the school for the children. We built kitchens, bathrooms, showers, and then there was another area called Buyang Miala, which was landmines. It had finally been cleared, and they had 50 some odd children that had never even seen a book. And so we went in there and built an innovation house, myself, and we all participated. And then after that, the gentleman who I was the interpreter, his name was Sotani Pyung, Tani came to me and he said, "I'm going to go to Village Rameus, and I really want to do something cool. I want to have a little school there." And I thought, okay. So we did. We converted part of his little house into a computer lab, and we sent the money so they could buy computers and printers. And then every single day we have children that come around 6:00 in the morning. We give them breakfast. And then we start our classes. We talk about all the things that regular school doesn't give them. So we learn about banking. They know how to have a piggy bank. We teach them how to speak Chinese, like different languages. We do some creative writing and just alternative things in life. Like about a month ago, we had a modeling show, like a runway show, so they could learn how to pose and how to, so I want them to have confidence. I want them to learn skills that, they might not normally get. So we also then bought a little parcel of land near there, and we have a mango tree farm. So we are now getting them to, become environmentally aware. And so, yeah, so that's my whole world has been involved with that. And also I'm on the board of the Sir Edmund Hillary Foundation. So we have a school and a hospital in Nepal outside of Kathmandu in Flapo. And that's another super huge passion is, these children that are in these extreme and remote areas are finally receiving, science and education that they wouldn't normally get. So I'm pretty stoked about those two organizations. We all can't change the world and do everything, but do something. I always say to people, just do something, like in your local community. Like I was involved with junior achievement in the YWCA for years and years. So you have to find a way to create the environment so you can wake up and feel like you've made a difference. And even if it's only for one person, that's huge. It just is huge.
It is huge. Yes. Yeah. Well, that is well said and very good advice, because there's billions of us in the world. So if we all do something, it could really change the trajectory of many things, right? And change our hearts too. When we're serving other people, it really changes us on the inside. There's nothing like serving somebody else and putting somebody else's needs before our own.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's so much tragedy. There's so many things that are going on in the world right now that we cannot even begin to comprehend. And so the positivity, the circle of light, the energy that we can exude actually does dampen the darkness around us. So, look at Nick Lowry going to Ukraine, wow, just keep serving and serving. And that's how we change the world.
Yeah. Change begins with us, ourselves. Yeah. So Patricia, so people want to get a hold of Patricia. It's patriciagagic.com. Now you also had on your name, you had Lotus 97.7. What does that mean?
So Lotus 97.7, I'm Lotus 97.7 is my collaborator, my drum instructor and painter, my friend Greg DiFrancesco. And so we collaborated doing paintings together and, we were originally going to be looking at doing NFTs and actually creating video painting to music, but also using the drumsticks and drumming with paint on the canvases. So we have done that as well. So right now we are working on our Thredge paintings and hopefully a few new other things happening. Yeah.
Oh, I don't doubt that there's a lot of things probably. You've got a lot of things in the works. So very exciting for you. Very exciting. I really enjoyed this time with you, Patricia, and really enjoyed you giving us so much insight into the artistic world and how you create and how wonderful you are contributing to this world. So I thank you so much for all that you have done and continue to do. And I look forward to the future and look forward. I'm so glad to know you. I'm so glad that you are part of my life now. Yes. And so awesome that you are in my circle now. So it's pretty awesome.
You and mine.
So I'm going to say goodbye for now because I know you obviously are a very, very busy gal. So I don't want to take more time out of your way. But you guys, when you watch this on the replay or definitely share this out. What an amazing woman Patricia is. And she is so humble about it. And that she wants to really enrich other people's lives. So please get the message out. And let's change the world one artist at a time.
That's it. Thank you.
We'll say goodbye for now.
Okay. Bye, Zena.
Thank you again, you guys, for joining today. Oh, so amazing. So amazing. So full of wonderful things. And you guys, stay tuned. I actually have another guest coming on a little bit later. Very special guest. Patricia did name him Nick Lowry, and he has done a lot of amazing things as well. So today is just a great day to listen to people who just give of themselves fully. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye. So have a blessed blessed day, and we'll see you soon.